I'm Richard Gage, architect and member of the American Institute of Architects, founder of Architects and Engineers for 9/11 Truth. I represent 1,900 architects and engineers who are demanding a real investigation of what happened to the 3 skyscrapers on 9/11. I've been asked to comment on the theory of mini-nuclear weapons. Now, I'm not a nuclear physicist, and I'm new to that information, but nuclear physicists have looked at the radiation signatures left behind and suggest that they are accountable by various phenomena. And that's only slightly above background radiation in most cases, and that in no way can be attributed to a nuclear detonation, which would have left massively massive levels of radiation. And according to any nuclear physicist or educated person on the subject, no accounts of the first responders having acute radiation sickness or severe burns, which would have happened in and around the so-called detonation zone. So we also have the heat produced in the World Trade Center towers directly attributable to the theory of thermite and nanothermite, which creates massive heat, given thousands of cutter charges that would have had to have been placed in order to bring this building down in somewhere between 12 and 15 seconds. The heat produced would have created a cloud, which they identify as a mushroom cloud. Heat rises, creates that kind of a shape. That heat is responsible also for the noodle effect, if you will, of some of these structural steel sections. That heat is accountable by the material pouring out of the South Tower 10 minutes prior to its collapse, molten metal, certainly not aluminum, molten iron or steel, by its color, red and white hot, orange and yellow and white hot. So this is indicative of temperatures exceeding the melting point of iron. So that's in direct opposition almost to the theory of nuclear detonation. Also, so we have explosive force, which I acknowledge, and so do the proponents of the nanothermite theory, that nanothermite is not the only it's an incendiary, but engineered to become explosive, but it would not have probably the explosive potential. So we all agree on this side of the equation that there's probably conventional explosives in operation. We've been saying that for years. So that part of it is denied in those who promote the mini-nuclear theory. They only talk about nanothermite not being able to be capable of causing this degree of explosive destruction, which would send 4-ton perimeter wall units 60 miles an hour laterally, landing 600 feet away in different directions. So we have the heat accountable by thermite, we have the explosions accountable by conventional explosives, we don't have radiation sickness, we don't have radiation burns, we don't have the massive fallout that would be throughout lower Manhattan, not just at ground zero. So in the case of tritium, it's attributable by a nuclear physicist, Stephen Jones, to in World Trade Center 6, where these spikes were, attributable to tritium sites in the weapons which were stored at World Trade Center 6. So there's accountability for those tritium levels in the water. So there's also accountability for the barium and the strontium in the primer paints, which have those elements at those levels in those building materials or applications of primer on those building materials. So this is all not acknowledged, not even mentioned in the presentation by the proponents of the mini-nukes theory.